I grew up in Tullahoma, Tennessee, just here, and I remember just growing up, in middle school and high school, and a lot of me just felt like I was misunderstood. My mother, she was a good lady, but at the end of the day, that she just had certain things that that caught up with her. And so by the time I was in high school, she dropped me out of high school, and I was a high school dropout. I really wasn't looking at a good situation in my life right at that point. And I remember my mom, she told me to go with my aunt to live with her for a while, so that they can get their house situation straightened out. And so I remember going to whenever I thought that I was ready to go with my mom. I remember going there, and she was telling me that I'm not welcomed here, and that I just need to go somewhere else. And so I remember being about 18 years old, not really knowing what to do, getting into my brother's car, probably a block away from the shelter. I remember him throwing my bag into the ditch, and then that's really where I remember my story starting, is getting those bags from the ditch and walking up to the shelter. And then just, I was very depressed and very sad about what was happening in my life. And so I just remember knocking on the door, and that was pretty much where my story began in terms of the shelter.
The shepherd's house, to me, I kind of look at it as, like, for Lebron especially, transition. They're at a low place, they're at a low place. They come in just like he did, depressed and sad. They have nothing. And we try to fill them with hope and love, so that they can see light at the end of their tunnel.
There were self-esteem challenges. He had confidence in and of himself, but he'd heard a lot of negativity about being trouble, about not going to achieve, about what he would never get anywhere. And and what I had seen from the energy he had to the determination, he never gave up, and in spite of the negativity, in spite of the obstacles and the hardship. And I'm thankful that Wilson Avenue would be a family that grew in their understanding of needing to be there.
One of the coolest things about him was that he's just always very giving. He always gives his time to me. He always gave advice whenever I needed it. Whenever I didn't have a car, he would drive me from the GED school to work. And then whenever I graduated from the GED school, he would drive me from Motlow to work. So he was always dedicated to me, and so therefore I was like, I must start a relationship with this guy because he cares a lot about me and my story. So I knew that from that point that we were going to be close. And I remember the day I asked him, could I call you Dad? He was just like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I really feel like you've done things that no one has ever done for me before. Something that a father should be doing. And so I truly feel like you're my dad.
That startled me, and there was a pause in my answering. On the one hand, more than willing, because very proud of him. On the other hand, considering the family dynamic, I didn't want that to create greater conflict or difficulty for him, because there still was that interaction with family. I talked to Juanita, and I said, I think this will bless. Hopefully we'll be a blessing, but more so, we will be blessed.
I remember he told me that it's better to handle things like head on, and just because I'm leaving doesn't mean it's going to handle anything that's in here. So I remember just thinking about that and just saying, well, he has a point. And so I remember just praying about it and realizing, in myself that maybe I am just trying to run away from who I was, or the thought that maybe I was shy and I was putting people off because of what my mom was doing, but it was actually because of me. And so I remember just saying, well, okay, God, I'll just stay here, go to Motlow. And so I really think that those first 2 years of going to Motlow was able to really just help me find out who I was.
After about a year hearing his story, I asked our shepherds, I said, why don't we do what I called radical benevolence? I said, let's partner with him. I said, he's doing really good in school. He's working 2 part-time jobs. I said, he doesn't have the monies to have his own apartment, but with a little investment, he could do this. For 1.5 years, maybe 2 years, he had his own apartment. And he kept the work ethic, kept the grades up, kept his activities in the church family here going really good. And during that 2nd year, then we helped him in regard to a car. And so then, that gave him a lot more flexibility and freedom, which he handled well.
Well, the one thing that kept me going was just the thought of what I can become and what God has already allowed me to be. I think that I learned to be more optimistic in life because God wouldn't allow me to live this life if it wasn't meant to do something great.
The year before, we were at summer celebration, and I told him, I said, I want you to meet President Lowry. And we had not been able to cross paths. And for some reason, we went up the elevator underneath on the backside, and when the doors opened, he walks out. So I said, that's good, God. You're good. I said, really want to see it. And so I introduced him, and that day, Dr. Lowry put Lebron in his phone and a number in the phone. And so then the following year, when he graduated, got back in touch with Dr. Lowry. And so things began to move as far as him coming to Lipscomb. So,
well, I always describe like Montlow as like proving to other people that I could do it. But I see Lipscomb proving myself that I can do it. And because I knew that when I came to Lipscomb, a lot of people were like, well, Lipscomb's a very hard school, it's a very hard school. It's very hard school to go to. The classes are harder, are you sure you're going to do that? But it's just also like, no, I know I could do this. I know deep inside me, like God wouldn't put this in my life if it wasn't possible. So I knew that Lipscomb was going to be that place where I could find out who I was, and I could prove to myself prove to myself that I was able to do this, or prove to myself that I had, all the ability and all the love from God to do this.
So I met Lebron for the first time at a transfer dinner, and it was at the Country Music Hall of Fame. And I went in and saw him and introduced myself, and there was a table full of other people as well. And that was kind of the initial thing, and I think he came back for advance, and I was the person who was scheduled to meet with him in advance, which started our relationship. It's a privilege to be a part of a community where we can listen to others' stories and we can value the person. And I am privileged that I have a chance every year to come in and see a new student and walk them through that journey. And LeBron's one that I'll remember because he's one that I've come into his life, and I get to walk with him for about 2 years. And hopefully he'll invite me in his life in the future to do that. But he has really made an impact on me and my life and my classroom. And he's brought in new thoughts and new ideas. And I think it's important to say that it's not just, we don't want people that just come from one background. We want that diversity of thought, and we want to give them opportunities to share those thoughts. And that plays a huge role in not only our personal lives, but in the classroom.
Yeah, Miss Gibson is probably the most influential person I've met here. She means a lot to me, and I really appreciate the lessons that she's been able to give me. She spoke about it, I think, and she talked about just how we met, and I think it's funny because I just thought she was just a nice person that was there at the dinner, and she was my teacher, she was my advisor, and she just really, from that moment, I knew that she was a very nice person. She was just very, very generous and caring, and I knew that from the beginning. I just remembered having just a really good feeling, and I just remembered all the moments that I needed from her, and the moments that I needed to just like talk to someone. I knew that I could talk to Miss Gibson, and I think that that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about her was that I saw her as a teacher, but it was also because I knew that I could just come to her if I had a problem.
I think Lipscomb is a better place because of LeBron, and that's because of what he brings to the table. I think it's really important for us to remember that we want people from different life paths in our classroom. And Lipscomb is a place that allows that community to happen and encourages it. And it's a privilege to be a part of that and to be a part of that journey. And it's also really a privilege to see how someone like Lebron can come into the classroom, can come into our lives, can come into our community, and can change it for the good. It can give us a new perspective on the way that we see our own lives. It can give us a new perspective on the way that we teach our students and the way that they react to the world around them. And his story is valuable, and he as a person is valuable. And that story has impacted everything that Lipscomb is, and has made it a better place in the long run.
Lipscomb has given me a realization that, anything is possible. I grew up in a very humble beginning, and I think that now that I can, it's a very surreal moment waking up every day, knowing that I have come so far. And that itself, waking up here, that it gives me that hope, or that will to know that I can do anything. And that's something that, people just, some people don't have. And it's, that to me is a good thing for me to have, because I'm able to say, well, look, God loves me, and he's able to give me this opportunity. And Lipscomb has been able to be that opportunity for me.
I mean, I have not been in that situation. I had two parents that loved me and raised me, and he didn't have that. And some others don't have what I have. And so to see him come out on the other side with this wonderful attitude, I might add, and you've asked him, how do you not be bitter? And I don't know how, it's just an awesome situation, but he's gotten a job, he's been to school, that he started in this place and could have taken a whole different path, but because of all the people here and at the church that he attends, they've molded him. And of course he had a lot of it inside, I think, against the odds.
I would have never been here if I didn't have a support system. So I always just say that, if I didn't have those, like I said, the little things, if I didn't have those people who just said, Ron, I hope you're having a good day, if you need anything, I'm there for you. Like if I didn't have those little things, then I probably would have been really bitter. But God really just works through people, and I truly believe that. And so I know that every time somebody says something like that in a positive way, I just know that it was God saying, hey, I'm here, and I'm going to show you through these people.
Your past doesn't have to define your present, and it sure doesn't have to determine your future. And I think faith gives you that victory. I think if I'd sum up his life, and hopefully our church life, is faith working through love. I think it's Galatians 5:6. That's all that matters. And that's what I see in this young man.